Well, to talk about the issue, let's bring in Susan Smith right now. She's principal at Blue Sky Strategy Group. Kate Harrison is vice chair at Summa Strategies. And Kim Wright is principal and founder at Wright Strategies. Hello to the three of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Susan, I'll get you to start us off here. You know, even if this vacation was nothing more than a trip with friends, the decision, it does open the Prime Minister up to these allegations of buying access, or at the very least being tone deaf to the economic challenges that Canadians are facing. Has the Prime Minister hurt himself with another unforced error?
I think the Prime Minister has a family, and like many Canadians, he works very hard. It's unfortunate that where he goes on a family vacation is public fodder or opposition fodder, I think, for football stuff. Obviously, if the Prime Minister travels anywhere, whether it's Toronto or to Manotick, there's security that is involved. That's the nature of the beast as a Prime Minister of the country. And I think if you want people to step forward and serve in public service, they shouldn't have to spend their time in public service tent camping, unless that's exactly what they want to do. If they don't want to camp in a tent, they don't have to camp in a tent. The Prime Minister has to travel with security. That's what it is. I think the opposition should be barking up other trees at this point. It's just boring.
Mm-hmm. Kate, what do you make of it? Because, you know, we did start this conversation off by playing a bit of the exchange from Pierre Poilievre and the Prime Minister in the House yesterday, and that's because by today, really, Jamaica is no longer really being asked by the opposition, Conservatives included. Is the issue not getting the traction the party wants, or is this still a legitimate issue?
I think because this has been a bit of a pattern of activity for the Prime Minister, this is not the first time that one of his vacations has come under scrutiny. I'm not sure that it does much to necessarily show new voters that Conservatives have something to offer. It's good fodder for the base. If you already think that Justin Trudeau runs in elitist circles and is a little bit out of touch when it comes to his vacation planning, this is another arrow in the quiver as far as that line of attack is concerned. But I think the real issue here, Michael, of course, is timing and the judgment that was applied in taking this vacation at a time when many Canadians are making alternative plans and arrangements. There probably is a middle ground between tent camping, to Susan's reference, and a $9,000 a night luxury resort. So there is a middle ground there that could have been achieved, and had the Prime Minister applied a bit of foresight and been advised that maybe this was not the right time to do something like this, I don't think the opposition would be as perplexed about it as they are right now.
Mm-hmm. Kim, I'm wondering what you think, because as we heard from Susan, really the argument that we hear from the Prime Minister, from Liberals, is that this was a vacation with longtime family friends. It was cleared by the Ethics Department. Was there really anything wrong with this vacation that the Prime Minister took, or is this more vulnerable because of the tie that's being made with the Trudeau Foundation?
I mean, the reality is, I'm not sure that the Prime Minister has taken a holiday that has not resulted in an ethics investigation. Whether we're talking about his trip to Nevis, or we're talking about going to the Aga Khan's private island, or any of the other myriad of other ones, including, God help us, the trip to Tofino, the ill-fated trip to Tofino, where it was on the first of Truth and Reconciliation Days. So we can talk about whether or not he should go on holidays or not. The Prime Minister is entitled to a holiday. He is not, however, entitled to his entitlements, and that's the position we're starting to get into. You couple this with the new, or now former new, ethics czar, who was herself going to be caught up inevitably in potential questions about ethics and conflicts of interest. I mean, the Prime Minister has never seen a conflict of interest he hasn't jumped on. And, you know, we can poo-poo it away a bit, but again, it becomes a pattern. And the only people who are actually bored about this are, you know, this poor staffers who are trying to arrange his holidays that doesn't include him breaking ethics rules. I think at some point he needs not only a travel agent, but a better ethics investigator. This was an unforced error that did not need to happen. And at some point, the Prime Minister will have realized that he has been the Prime Minister since 2015. And hold on, Susan, I know you're going to jump in there and say he's entitled to all of these things. And it's true. He can have a holiday. But at some point, he has got to learn that it doesn't always have to be with his fancy friends at very fancy places. And if he is going to have them, that's fine. But he's going to have to start ponying up for them.
Okay, Susan.
Well,
quickly.
I think, Kim, I think that one danger is by there was an insinuation that there was ethics violations on this particular holiday. That's not the case. And so I think we have to be very careful at the accusations. I think we have to be very careful at those things and making sure you stick to the facts are stuck to on this. Look,
the fact is on every holiday he has taken,
that the average Canadian can afford. There's no
I'm
question.
not saying he can't take fancy holidays. I'm not saying he can't take fancy holidays, Susan. I can say, however, that politics is something that he
one at a time.
Political leaders need to take a poll about whether or not they can have a vacation with their family. I think that's unreasonable.
I think you can have all the vacations in the world.
Okay, go ahead, Kim.
I think everyone can have all the vacations that they want, but they also have to be realistic, especially somebody who's spent their entire life in politics and under the public spotlight, to understand that there are some points in your life, especially when you've been the prime minister since 2015, that you should recognize that maybe going on fancy holidays and with people who may or may not put you under scrutiny in this climate is not something that he should do, and certainly not something he should be surprised when he's called to account. At what point do we actually do get to call them to account without it being too much of being a partisan hack? Come on now, Suze.
I think, Kate, you want to get in there as well.
Yeah, there's ethics, there's optics, and if you look at the latter, like that's what matters when it comes to re-election. And people are craving political leadership that is in touch with them, that understands their concerns, and kind of reflects that, I think, in their own actions. So again, there probably is a middle ground here between taking a vacation at all and doing what the Prime Minister chose to do, which is a very opulent vacation, again, at a time where people are struggling. And on the public opinion side of things, this is not a good look for a Prime Minister that has had multiple iterations of similar challenges, optical problems in the past. He should have learned his lesson by now, given there's been 4 or 5 of these instances. Okay,
I have 3 minutes, so that's 1 minute to each of you left in this conversation. I really want to quickly talk about that Washington Post story on Canada's defense spending. The Prime Minister would not confirm whether or not he said that comment about the 2% commitment to NATO, but the very fact that this is being reported on, apparently in a leaked document from the Pentagon, is this embarrassing for Canada and for the Prime Minister? Susan, I'll get your thoughts first. You have 1 minute.
I think leaked documents out of the Pentagon are an embarrassment. Leaked documents out of Canada are an embarrassment. And I think the Prime Minister is wise not to comment on the veracity of something like that, whether it's true or not. Then you're validating this kind of thing. There's no doubt that Canada's NATO contributions have never, it's been a long time since they hit the levels that the world wants them to hit. We do our best. Could we spend more? Yes. But it's not a new thing. I think for the government of Canada, this is not a country that likes billions and billions of dollars to go out the door on a regular basis. For defense spending, I think there are times and places where we are supportive of more. I would argue that this is the time and the place, but there's a capacity issue that we have to work up to.
Okay, Kate, you have a minute as well.
Yeah, it's not a good look, certainly, and I think that this particular government feels a lot of pressure when international media starts critiquing their action and behaviors. On this file overall, I don't think it's taking anybody by surprise that we're not going to hit the 2% spending target. But what is more concerning is that there's a pattern here of Canada trying to be all things to all people on the world stage. And that's probably why a number of allies are looking at us with a sense of disappointment. That hasn't necessarily been the case in Ukraine. I think Canada has punched above its weight in terms of supporting Ukraine. Maybe this is more of a comms issue for the government. They need to be a little bit more prescriptive about where they're going to support, maybe have a bit more of a targeted approach, and then that will result in less hurt feelings around the table if we overpromise and underdeliver, which it seems like maybe we are doing in Haiti and Latvia and some of the other nations that have been mentioned in that document.
Kim, your reaction?
So look, I think that there are lots of things that the Prime Minister needs to be aware of, including leaked documents out of the Pentagon. But I also go back to what Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats have frequently said on military spending, which is that we should be heavily engaged. We should be part of, making sure we're living up to our obligations, both within Canada and our own domestic military, as well as what is required of us around the world, whether that is an arbitrary 2% number from NATO so or not. I think what we really do need to get to the bottom of is what is the appropriate amount that we need to be spending, and maybe it's time we start busting out the credit card on military spending here in Canada, considering what Russia has often been pushing up against on Arctic sovereignty, and certainly what we've seen China do, whether it be weather balloons, influence on elections, or in military increase and pushing. So all of these things, we need to actually have a better response overall on military spending. And I think that is fundamentally where we need to get to if Canada wants to continue to be the respected nation that we have a history of being.
Okay, Susan, Kate, Kim, thank you. You always make my Thursdays very interesting.
Feisty.
Thank you.
Bye, take care.